morning, everyone. Welcome to the dedication of Bob Cousy statue here in the city of Worcester. Welcome, Bob Cousy. Glad to see you here. We have a number of elected officials here today, so I just want to welcome all here today. I want this Celtic organization. Thank you for being here. And also want to recognize the city officials and Sandy Dunn and John Harry from the Civic Center for organizing today's event. Thank you very much. Job well done, Mr. Harry. Thank you. I also want to recognize Bob Cousy's family that is with us today, his daughters Tisha and Marie, and also grandson Zachary. Also want to thank City Councilor Matt Wally for making this day happen here in the city of Worcester by following the order to get this going. Thank you, Matt. Also want to recognize City Councilors Mo Bergman and Christian King, who filed a motion over the number of years, supported by the City Council to try to find a way to recognize Bob. So thank you to you also, and thank you to Mr. Cousy for allowing us to recognize you here today. Much will be said today about Bob Cousy's exploits at the College of the Holy Cross and on the hardwood of the Boston Garden. He's the stuff of legends, aptly given the name Mr. Basketball. As mayor of Bob Cousy's adopted city, although he's lived here longer than I have, I wanted to touch upon Bob Cousy as a civil rights leader. This has been a difficult year in our city, state, and nation. From where we stand, we can see the Worcester's Black Lives Matter mural on Major Taylor Boulevard behind us. This is an appropriate place for the statutes, and Bob Cousy is one of the earliest leaders integrating the NBA. I'd like to quote from former Telegram Gazette columnist Diane Williamson. Many folks are unaware that while the Boston Celtics star was dazzling fans with his footwork and behind-the-back passes, he was also standing up against racism in the NBA, supporting his African-American teammates, and organized the first Players Union. In 1950, for example, the Celtics played in the segregated city of Charlotte, North Carolina, and his teammate Chuck Cooper, the first African-American in NBA history to be drafted, was not allowed to stay in a hotel with his white teammates. Rather than take a room in the hotel, Mr. Cousy traveled with Cooper after the game on an overnight train back to Boston. Cousy later stood up for his teammate Bill Russell, who was also a frequent target of racism. The Coos was also a labor leader of sorts, organizing the National Basketball Players Association, the first in pro sports. The association helped secure health benefits, pension plans, and minimum salaries for players. This was a fight to ensure that players were compensated fairly for the profits and entertainment they created and for the punishment their bodies endured over their careers. Every generation of player that has followed you has benefited from your fight for pay equity and greater benefits. Bob Cousy's greatest accomplishment in his life was not on the hardwood of the Boston Garden, or even standing up for players of color. Bob's greatest accomplishment how he cared for his family and his wife, Missy Collette Cousy. The measure of a man is not taken when the TV lights are on. They are often in the private moments, and his true character is shown. This is where Bob Cousy was a true star. In closing, it is only appropriate for this son of poor French immigrants who grew up in the streets of New York City to be memorialized in his adopted city of Worcester, a city that is proud of its ethnic diversity and its strong support for organized labor, a city that understands true dedication and sacrifice. Today you'll hear from friends and fellow legends from across Bob's life, from his time at Holy Cross to his time at Boston Garden to the White House. With everything that has transpired in Bob's life, even the opening of Polo Park last month, I'd like to think he has carried with him the same spunk and tenacity that he displayed playing pickup games in Crompton Park and the lessons from Holy Cross. Just as everywhere he went, Bob took a piece of our city. So too did the city of Worcester go with him. I'm grateful to be here today and say welcome personally, thank you, Mr. Bob Cousy. Before I turn it over to Mike Gorman, I also recognize Senator Manchin and Senator Brown also for being with us here today. Thank you.
I want to say that covers everything. Good night. Have a good night. We're going to spend the afternoon relating experiences, finding out how Bob Cousy touched our life one way or the other. And I look forward to hearing all your stories. For me, it was when I was 10 years old, 1957. The Celtics won their first world championship. And I saw in old black and white footage this guy who passed the ball between his legs, threw it over his shoulder, didn't appear to have any sense of what was going on. It always turned out right. It was amazing. My second touch with Bob was when he cut me from the BC basketball team. On the second day of practice, it was discovered early I had no left hand, so Bob decided we weren't going any further with this case. But then maybe the nicest part is 20 years later, I got to do games beside him and to learn of his knowledge, his ability to take a situation and make it interesting to people to listen to watch. He was a student of the game, is a student of the game, and I still enjoy to this day calling him up on the phone after big games and talking with him and getting his impression. As long as you don't call between 12 and 4, because that's when he's reading, which I'm not sure you knew that, but just bring up any book, he's read it. So again, that's how things touched me. We want to hear how things touched. We have a wonderful list of speakers for you this afternoon. And I want to say to each one of the speakers before you come up here, we did contact your staff, and we asked your staffs to write us introductions so that we could use to introduce you. And we found out that once we got all the introductions in, we'd be here till early Sunday morning if we read all those introductions. So we're not going to read many of them at all. We're just going to introduce people, let people come up here and tell you how Bob Cousy touched his life, or her life. And what better way to start than the governor of the great state of Massachusetts, Charlie Baker.
So let me just first of all start by saying, as somebody who played the game of basketball for many, many years, there's a difference between the way the truly great ones play the game and the way the rest of us play it. And I think in some ways the one thing we all share is the joy of the act of playing, of the competition and the teamwork and the chance to potentially once in a while do something really special. For most of us, the really special part may never happen. For that guy, it happened pretty much every time he touched the ball. And that, for a kid like me, was in some ways the real magic of the sport, was watching somebody do something that you just knew you would never see again. And the beauty of Bob Cousy is, despite the fact that he was a spectacular player throughout the course of his career, one of only 4 players, I think, who's made every All-NBA team since they started keeping track of them back in the 70s. The thing that made him really special was he was a better person than he was as a player, despite how great he was as a player. And his sidekick here went through some of those examples in his earlier remarks, but I spent 22 years as a big brother, and I know a lot about what it means to be a big brother. Guess who else knows what it's like to be a big brother? That guy right there, who served as a big brother to 3 kids. And the final thing I'm going to say, because there are a lot of people who wanted to speak today, is how much I appreciate the fact that once again, we here in Massachusetts stole someone great from New York. Who came here, built a life, stayed here, and made us all so enormously proud to be able to call him one of our own. Congratulations to Worcester, and especially congratulations to you, Bob.
I said I was going to be brief, and I will be. Next up is the Lieutenant Governor, Karen Polito.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is fantastic. You look around this room, we see a lot of our friends, and so honored to be with the Cousy family. And some have come as far as Senator Manchin, who you'll hear from, to honor our dear friend today. We know the success of this man on the court, but what I want to just talk about briefly, and the governor touched upon him being one of our own, but for us here in Worcester, this is personal, because the Cousy is one of us. And I call him Mr. Cousy because I have such enormous respect for him. But I just want to say thank you for making one of the most important decisions of your life back in 1946 when you accepted Holy Cross's offer to attend that school as a freshman and play ball. He'll tell you that one, but he said it was down to 2 offers, so it was easy. I'm glad that it was an easy choice for you. But that was pivotal, because from that day forward, Worcester became your home. And for us here in Worcester, we are so proud of you and honored to have been able to call you one of us for so many years. And I think one of the reasons why you stayed here is because you felt comfortable here in this working city. You were welcomed here. You weren't bothered here. You got your private time with your friends and your family. And that's because we loved you from the very beginning, and we have had enormous respect for you and wanted you to be happy here. I would also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge all of your friends and fans from your Holy Cross days that you continue to associate with, and that's a true testament to you about friendship and how much that's meant to you. I have the joy of seeing you on some Thursday nights at the round table at Worcester Country Club, and a lot of your friends are here, where you gather and solve the important business of this community and of this country. And I never bother you, because I know you're up to some really important discussions then. And finally, I just want to say this is a very important day for this Commonwealth and this country as we honor Juneteenth and acknowledge the importance of ending slavery in this country and being committed on this day and every day to addressing racial injustice. And if there's any day that we would have this special gathering for this beautiful unveiling, it's on this day. Because in your early days, you stood up strong against racial injustice, and you stood with your brothers arm in arm to make sure that they were loved and supported and respected just as much as you. We love you. We are so happy to be here. And this is going to be one amazing display, long overdue, and it's found its rightful home right here in the great city of Worcester. We love you, and thank you.
All of us have taken time out from, I'm sure, busy schedules to come here and honor Cousy here this afternoon, and we really appreciate that. Maybe the guy who would win the award is not only coming the furthest, but having the busiest agenda that he has set aside to be with Cousy is Senator Joe Manchin.
Well, let me say what an honor it is to be here with everybody, with the governor, Lieutenant Governor, my former colleague, Scott Brown, Senator Scott Brown, right back there. And I bring you greetings also, Cousy. I talked to Senator Mitt Romney right before we came on, and he wanted you to know how much he appreciates, loves you, and wish he was here with you. My wife, Gail's with us, and you're probably wondering what a person from the coal fields of West Virginia is doing here today, how I got here, or how I know this gentleman. Well, let me give you the rest of that story. I was one of the millions of young men, young boys, let's put it, back in the middle 50s, late 50s, that this was our idol. We just never could figure out how he could do the things he did and the way he did it. And we'd all go out and play afterwards. Now, this is before Jerry West, okay? I'm West Virginia, Jerry West, you all know. Jerry West came along, and I'll tell you that story too, but this is the guy that got it all started for all of us. And everybody wanted to be the Cousy. Could you throw the ball? Hell, we throw it in the creek everywhere else, and it'd go everywhere. We had no control, but he did. So we kept trying all of these things to emanate this person. And then then I found out the real person, not the basketball player, but bigger than a court, was the humanity of this man and what he did and how he basically had the courage. Everyone says you have courage. The main thing is the opposite of courage, he wasn't a coward. That's the opposite of courage. He wasn't a coward to do what was right. And he did it. He stood up for all of us. And people that sometimes hold back and they don't really tell you what they think or what they feel, you don't have to worry about the Cousy did. Now, fast forward again, my good friend Andy Perdella and Joni. Andy says, I'm going to go see, I've just talked to the Cousy, and I'm thinking, the Cousy, would that be Bob Cousy? He said, yeah. And I said, well, he said, I grew up, I've known him since I was a little kid. And I'm thinking, my goodness, that was something. We were down in Florida. He says, you want to meet him? I said, sure. This must be, 10 years ago? So we go over and have lunch, and we talk, and I just couldn't believe it, and we just had a great time. And then I heard about, well, maybe this Presidential Medal of Honor. I couldn't believe he had never been awarded that. I could never believe he had not been recognized. So many presidents that should have done it. So I happened to be in a place at the right time, and I had, at that time, a good relationship with President Trump. And I said at that time, timing is everything now. Timing is everything, okay? It just happened to be. Cousy was always at the right place at the right time. So I went over and had lunch one day with the president. I said, I've got something that I'd like to ask you, if you consider. I said, there's a gentleman by the name of Bob Cousy. He says, I remember that. He said, what a heck of a ball player. And I said, well, let me just tell you, more than just ball players. So I told him the rest of the story. I told President Trump. He says, that's wonderful. And I says, we got to give him the Presidential Medal of Honor. You got to do it. And I said, it's long overdue. And he says, if you're around President, oh yeah, okay, we'll do it. I'm thinking, okay, we got it done. Then we had at that time, Tiger Woods won the Master. Kind of knocked us back on our timing a little bit. So I had to call the Cousy. I said, hey, Bob. I said, we're going to get it. I know we are, but I think we just got knocked out by Tiger Woods. So that got put off, and we're just wondering. And again, timing, anything could blow up at any minute, you understand, in Washington. So then it happened, and I can tell you what a day that was for all of us, and what a day it was for America to see a person's recognized more than just the talent on the hardwood, but what's in his heart. He's the one person that brings us together bipartisan. Democrat, Republican, every senator, all 100, without a T, said, please thank him for what he has done for America and all of us. So on this day, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Bob Cousy. Thank you for being the person you are and the person that you've always been. And we love you, and we'll never, ever, ever, ever forget you. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate it.
Not too many attorneys general could successfully play one-on-one with Bob, but our next speaker could do that. Welcome Maura Healey, the Attorney General of Massachusetts.
Well, hi, everybody. It is such an honor to be here. It's so wonderful to see Bob and Marie and Tish. So why am I here? So there were a lot of little boys that grew up watching Bob Cousy, and then there were some girls, too, who later on in life got to appreciate the game of basketball. And I'm growing up in Hampton, New Hampshire. The first youth team that I'm on happens to be Holy Cross. So I get my purple shirt. I get to pick out my number. At that point, I grew up, I think I learned to read reading the Globe sports pages, and so, and I was kind of a little bit of a student of the game at that point, so it was a no-brainer for me as a point guard, because I was the only like third or fourth grader who could dribble, and a Celtics fan and assigned to Holy Cross, so I was number 14. And I wore 14 all through junior high and high school and in college and in my pro career, because of this man. Now, we didn't know, we didn't know each other, but he inspired me to do all my little figure 8 drills and my fingertip push-ups and all those things that one is supposed to do as a point guard. Fast forward, I find myself in 2013 running for this job. Incidentally, the Democratic Convention was right here in Worcester. And along the way, I had this wonderful young woman who was from New York, whose grandfather grew up with Bob. And she had made this connection, and and ended up, he reached out to you and asked if, you'd be willing to meet. And we took a ride out, and we met. And that was the beginning of what I think has been a really meaningful friendship for me. We sat and we talked that day about a lot of things. As point guards, the most important statistic is the assist. Bob gave me a big assist in that race. He endorsed me in my race for Attorney General. But we proceeded to have a lot of conversations about a lot of things. I had no idea about his commitment to social justice. I thought it was so cool that he started the first players union, that he stood strong for efforts to combat racial inequality, that he too thought the game had gotten a little too much above the rim and the guys don't know the fundamentals. We agree on these. We talk about the game a lot these days too. It has been a wonderful conversation, continuing conversation. I thank you for your friendship. I admire you. And as the senator just said, it's really compelling, particularly in this day and age. You see the panoply of people from different walks of life, different experiences, different places, all of whom come together around you. And that is something that's special about the game of basketball, too. It's a team game, and it takes all types and skills to play. And you, as a point guard, knew that. You cultivated that in your friendships and your relationships. So it's a privilege to be here today, Bob, to see this wonderful unveiling. Love you.
At this time, I'd like to ask Mayor Petty and Candy Mary Carlson from District 2 City Council to have a special presentation here.
Bob, it's nice to be up here again, and I just have a special presentation from the people of Worcester and the City Council. As a crusader at the College of the Holy Cross, and we had a 6-time national champion for the Boston Celtics, your gameplay elevated not only your team, but our city itself. Throughout your life, you show us all that basketball is a way to connect with others, open doors for others, and form friendships. Your commitment to charity, your family, and your city is an example of which we can all aspire. I want to thank you for sharing your talent so freely with the world. You are a true son of Worcester, and it is only right and fitting that you receive our city's highest honor. It is my pleasure to present you the key to the city of Worcester in recognition of your lifetime commitment to our city, your legacy in the sports of basketball, and your contributions to civil rights.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's my honor to present the proclamation today. Whereas Bob Cousy has been an active member of Worcester community since his time at Holy Cross, where he led Holy Cross Crusaders to dozens of wins during his time on the Holy Cross men's basketball team. And whereas Bob Cousy went on to make Worcester proud as a member of the Boston Celtics, leading them to numerous NBA final victories, and whereas Bob Cousy has been recognized by the NBA with MVP recognitions, awards, and introduction into the Basketball Hall of Fame, and whereas Bob Cousy is not only a basketball legend, but an advocate for social justice issues and racial justice, and whereas Bob Cousy's legacy has been recognized by Worcester community and even throughout the country, including recognition of receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Joseph M. Petty, do hereby proclaim June 18th as Bob Cousy Day in the city of Worcester and encourage all residents to recognize and participate in the observance issued in Worcester on this 18th day of June 2021. Joseph M. Petty, Mayor.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you.
How you doing, Coos?
We're going to make it, Joe.
All right. All right. That's what I wanted to hear. Edward M. Augustus is the city manager here in Worcester. Welcome him.
It's an honor and privilege to be here today
and I want to thank some of the folks who made today possible. I want to thank John Harity and the members of the Civic Center Commission, as well as John Odell and Rick Trefaro of the city's Office of Energy and Asset Management for their tireless efforts to bring this statue to fruition today. I also want to thank Cornerstone Building Services for their assistance, and Sandy Dunn and ASM Global for all they did to arrange today's events. And a very special thank you to the artist, Amre, for sharing his vision and his talent and working so closely with Bob to create a statue that really does capture his essence as a player. Trust me when I tell you, the statue you're about to see is really something special. It will stand as a lasting tribute to someone who couldn't be more deserving. Worcester really is lucky to have been Bob Cousy's home all these years. If not for many twists of fate, he may have never ended up here. One of those fortuitous moments happened after he was done playing high school ball. Boston College had invited Bob to visit the school and play for them. When he went to visit, however, he learned they had no dorms and he'd have to live off campus. That prospect didn't appeal to him. So he left, returned home, dug out the letter from Holy Cross, looked at the brochure. Holy Cross had dorms. He could have left after his days up on the hill were over, but he married his college sweetheart, Missy, and they made their home in Worcester. Not wanting to pick up and leave Worcester, he wouldn't have played for the Tri-City Blackhawks when they drafted him, and he refused to leave when he was subsequently traded to the Chicago Stags. It is to the city of Worcester's great fortune that he wouldn't budge. Bob ended up playing for the Boston Celtics and ended up staying right here in Worcester. Bob, you may not have been born here, but you belong here. You've called yourself a Worcesterite, and you are. You adopted this city as your own, and we adopted you right back. I know you're a private person, and things have been the opposite of private for you recently. The 2019 Presidential Medal of Freedom and a visit to the White House. Last month, you helped us christen our brand-new Polar Park at the home opener of the Worcester Red Sox. And today, you'll pull back the cover of a statue in your honor. In another week, we'll also cut a ribbon on a newly reconstructed Cousy Courts at Crompton Park. You are forever a part of the fabric of this city. Bob, we're proud to be your home. We are proud to call you one of our own, and we couldn't be prouder to dedicate this statue to you today. People will have many different reactions and feelings when they see the statue. For me, every time I look at it, I'll think, there's Bob Cousy. He was born in New York, he played in Boston for the Celtics, and he calls Worcester home. Thanks, Bob. Congratulations.
Well, he was just mentioned, so let's bring him up. John Harity, the chairperson of the Civic Center Commission.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for coming on behalf of the Worcester Civic Center Commission. I'd like to acknowledge the commissioners that worked so hard on this project to see this through fruition. Jim Knowlton, Lowell Alexander, John Brissett, and Penelope Heradim. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate their hard work. I would be remiss if I didn't pick up on the work that two Holy Cross graduates were instrumental in getting this project through. One is John Odell, and the other one is Che Anderson. Che is the one that set everything up with Amre to do the sculpture, and John Odell saw it through fruition. The hard work that he did should not go unnoticed. I told him that he'd have to put a football helmet on to dodge all the accolades that I'm putting on his head, but thank you both, John. There he is in the back. Good. I'd be remiss if Sandy Dunn and Jim Moen from the ASM Global Managers of the DCU Center They kept this building strong and open throughout the pandemic. And we've got such a beautiful facility here that we have people coming from all over the world and even West Virginia to view this place here. So, thank you so much. The Harity family hosted Bob at our home numerous times, including Christmas Day and on St. Patrick's Day. I even convinced Bob that the best corned beef is the gray corned beef, in which he enjoyed it. He also kept coming back for more and more dinners. He loved my swordfish recipe. We would sit there with my wife Kathleen, my sons Jack, Brian, and Patrick, and have great conversations and hearing great stories that the Coos had to tell. You know, speaking of St. Patrick's Day, on his pending retirement from the Boston Celtics, Bob Cousy Day was at the old Boston Garden on March 17th, 1963. There were 14,000 fans there. During Cousy's speech, he had to stop several times to gather his composure. After a while, you could hear a pin drop in the Boston Garden. All of a sudden, a Celtic fan by the name of Joe Dillon, who was a big Celtic fan and had the cheap seats on the top balcony of the old Boston Garden, he yells out, "Coos, we love you!" And the place erupted. So, with that being said, we were able to put that verbiage on the trophy that you'll see later on today. We love you, Coos. So, the thing is, Coos, I love you. We love you very, very much, as we all do. The person I have met is one of the fabulous persons that you ever want to meet, and it's been an honor and a privilege to work with Mr. Cousy and his daughters to have this dream come true. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to count to three. 1, 2, 3. And after that, I'd like to hear everybody yell out, "We love you, Coos." Ready? 1, 2, 3. We love you, Coos. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
While Coos was helping the city of Worcester get put on the map, he was also helping Holy Cross College get put on the map. Here to talk about that is the president of Holy Cross, Father Philip L. Burrows.
Honored guests, Worcester friends, and Cousy family. While never a big professional sports fan, even I knew who the legendary Bob Cousy was when I was a boy growing up in Seattle in the 1950s. How we all delighted in his skill and his fame and wished that one day we could meet him in person. Many years later, and shortly after I arrived at Holy Cross, I had that privilege. And in more recent years, we have become friends through frequent calls and occasional visits. While many today will more eloquently than I be able to honor the legendary Cousy, my brief remarks will instead celebrate the person. I know Bob is a man of deep and sincere faith who lives what he believes. I watched his loving care for his wife Missy as she struggled with health issues, but she always seemed peaceful in his devoted attention and support. I know a man who is proud of his daughters and their families, as I hear about you often, and deeply appreciates their care and concern for him. And I am very aware that Bob is a faithful friend who faithfully appreciates and supports those who for many years have formed his inner circle for support and for fun. And it is as a friend and a fellow team member that Bob consistently worked for racial equity, growing in his understanding and his commitment over the years. And finally, as a highly engaged alum, I have been blessed by Bob's unfailing personal support and his concern for alma mater, the College of the Holy Cross. He always applauds our successes and, on occasion, offers his advice when he has concerns. And finally, as the first local institution to erect a statue in Bob's honor, I am pleased to see our wonderful city celebrating the man we all know and respect, not only for his athletic achievements, but for his graced and gracious humanity. Congratulations, Bob.
I've had the distinct privilege over the last 41 years to do the television broadcast for the Boston Celtics. And the thing that distinguishes the ownership of this team right now from all the other ones that I worked for is they want to win the whole thing. And they want to win the whole thing right now. They don't want to talk about getting to the playoffs. They don't want to talk about, hey, we got to the third round, that was really good. They just want to win it all right now. It's a great atmosphere to work in, and the two guys responsible for it are Wick Grossbeck and Steve Paliuga.
Well, we're going to split our 3 minutes. Steve made a proposal, and I've rejected it, but we'll just see how it goes.
I'll get at least 10 seconds.
We are gathered to celebrate one of the truly finest human beings I've ever met, we've ever met in our lives. Bob, we're here to thank you for your humility, your honor, your selflessness, and your fight for justice. I've learned from you since '03 when we came in, not just your commentary with Mike, but your tireless hours with the team, with the coaching staff, with us, telling us what it meant to be a Celtic, leading by example, and particularly in your relationship with Missy and the team. And you always put her first, and you always put your teammates first. You are the most selfless, great champion ever. And I'm so grateful for the chance to spend these many years with you. And most recently in 2019, when you visited the team, we were two Worcester guys, if I may be so bold. I was born in Fairlawn Hospital, lived on Forest Street. We were two Worcester guys sitting about, talking about basketball and life and books. We shared a lot. Thank you, Bob. With every breath you take, you've tried to make the world a better place, and you have.
Bob, it was about 19 years ago when Wick and I came to Worcester for our first Celtics event ever. And we were very excited, and we knew we were both very thankful that we could be some part of something that's greater than ourselves. And you and your teammates and Red Auerbach really started the legacy of social justice for many, many years. It's really fitting that we have Bill Russell with a presidential medal, you with a presidential medal, you as a huge supporter of civil rights. We do try to win championships every year, but we know we can win the championship off the court, and you've set an example for all these years in doing that in this community, actually working with children, being mentor to children, and set a huge example for that Celtics legacy. We have recently formed Boston Celtics United for Social Justice, and that honors you and the work you have done, and we've committed $25 million over the next 10 years for pillars to create social justice for everyone in this community, and you have been an inspiration for that. So Wick and I have been so thrilled to get to know you in the last 19 years as a commentator. I have to admit, I'm not from Worcester. I was from Framingham, down the road, competitive with Worcester. But watching you as a boy playing basketball, you were the first Magic before there was Magic, and you still bring that magic today to the community. And we are just so thrilled that you're being honored today. And we're so thrilled to be part of something that's bigger than ourselves with you as a leader. So thank you so much.
You know, when you go back to those old days, Cruz, of your team, of course, it was the Cousy was out there, Russ was out there, my late great partner, Tommy Heinsohn, was the Hawk, that was his nickname. I'm not sure if this nickname applies today, but it certainly applied for this time with the Celtics. The scholar on this team, unquestionably, would be Satch Sanders.
A lot of wise guys up here, okay? No question. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be in your company this afternoon. Celebrating this momentous occasion, the Cousy, the hard face of the Cousy will be here forever. Fortunately, I'm going to be around to see it. Okay? Hey, a little more about the Cousy. You know, it's interesting. I came up in 1960. You know, in fact, I had the opportunity to play against Holy Cross in '58. I think that's when we kicked their behind. New York University. I can see it now. But that's another time, another story. You know, Cousy in 61 was so involved with trying to get a union in place as far as the players were concerned. And I can tell you, as a rookie on the team, I kept saying to myself, you know, I thought this was about basketball. Instead, you had Cousy going on the line with his profile and reputation. The owners were certainly different from this breed, but they were very personal in some of the comments they made about the Cousy and some other players that were trying to get the union in place. It was a different and difficult time, but Cousy stayed on the case with his partner Heinsohn, okay, another Worcesterite, okay, and another Holy Cross guy, okay, and they kept pushing, and we got the union together. But that was not enough. The Cousy pushed, and we ended up getting an outstanding, a pension, okay? And I won't say it was outstanding at that time, but I will say this. Long about now, I'm enjoying the fruits of that pension. So I have a lot to thank the Cousy for, okay? Let me touch another base where Cousy is concerned. Some statisticians, that's right, nowadays it's analytics, excuse me. We met and talked, and I mentioned the fact that this event was coming up, and we said, hey, you played a few seasons with the Cousy. I said, yeah, three seasons. And they went back and took a look, and they recognized very clearly the numbers were kind of shaky where I was concerned, okay? They said, you know, if Cousy had passed you the ball 4 or 5 more times, you know, it would have added to his assist list, and I could have been an all-star, okay? But this is not about me, all right? Okay? Of course, if Cousy tells the story, he would tell about my weak hands and my shaky vision as to why he didn't give me the ball. But I'll let him tell that if he ever wants to, okay? You know, seriously, you folks made this event happen, and the folks involved have to be congratulated, okay? You could not have picked a finer man and a bigger man for this particular statue situation, believe me. You know, a lot of people had a habit of saying, you know, Cousy played. Well, many times when people say played, they have a bad habit of thinking about recreation and fun times. And the Cousy was out there, as far as the teammates were concerned. You had big guys, small guys. You had old guys and young guys, all trying to get a piece of the Cousy, because certainly he was the superstar in terms of all the backcourt players at that time. And so what he did night after night had nothing to do with recreation and fun and good times and playing in the minds of many people. What it was about was some serious work, and every night he certainly performed when he was out there. Off the court, though, is when you really get a chance to get to know the Cousy and talk about many, many subjects. There are many facets to this man, and I hope many of you get an opportunity to, but you better hurry up and get online, okay? Because a lot of folks want to talk to the Coos, and more will want to talk to them after this particular event. But very special man, and I'm just glad I've gotten to know him and can call him friend. Congratulations to you folks in Worcester, and certainly congratulations to the Coos. Thank you.
It's too bad. Not only do I have the best seat, but I get the little sides. I can hear them, you know. We got to get a better microphone on Cousy. Our final speaker of the afternoon, you could ask for none better. If you want to talk about professional basketball, you want to talk about this team in the days of Satch and Coos and Russ, there's only one guy you really want to hear speak, Bob Bryant.
Oh, sure. Make me follow the coolest man in the room. I grew up in the 50s and loved basketball and played a lot of basketball. And anybody who can relate to that experience knows that any time on any playground, in any court, inside or outside in America in those days, if someone threw a pass behind his back, somebody would yell, "Who do you think you are, Cousy?" And, you know, of course, the answer was yeah at that point. But none of us were. I would tell you this, and I guarantee this, that if on any street corner in America in those days, stopped any man or woman and said, here's a quiz, one question quiz, name a basketball player, the overwhelming answer would have been Bob Cousy. He was synonymous with basketball. He was, in fact, Mr. Basketball, and that nickname was as appropriate as any you can imagine. Now, I arrived at Boston College in 1964 as a freshman, and 1964 as a freshman, and people in Trenton, New Jersey, my hometown, assumed that I went to BC because Bob Cousy was the coach, which would have been a great reason. It wasn't the reason, but he indeed was the coach at BC basketball. And I fortunately got the job as play-by-play broadcaster on the student radio station, and as such, of course, got to meet the coach. So that's how it all started, with me and meeting the great Bob Cousy. What gave birth to was a 4-year tutorial on basketball. Both the games, but equally important, the practices. The practices were open. And my basketball-loving friends and I went to many, many of those practices and learned the game from the master. And also get to hear him say such things as, Stephen, present yourself. And Tully, don't dribble. Remember that, Terry? So, but we used to have fun with the Coos, but the Coos was remarkable. Those teams were really good. We were good. Now, you had a shakedown cruise his first year. After that, my 4 years, we were 88 and 23. We went to 2 NCAAs, 2 NITs when that still mattered, and that was a big deal. And we went to the Final 8 in 1967, losing to Dean Smith's first Final Four team. And then the year after I graduated, he had one more farewell year where the team was 24-4, went to the finals of the NIT. And then that day, John Baum just decided to have an out-of-body experience. I don't know what that was all about, but that gave the victory to Temple. So I wasn't sure that that was the end of my relationship with Bob Cousy. Well, it turns out, no. I was covering the Celtics on opening night in 1969, and guess who's the coach of the Cincinnati Royals? Bob Cousy. And that was very comforting to me because I didn't know anybody in the Celtics then. That's a whole other story. But it was very comforting to be there and see the Coos again. And by the way, they won the game. They beat the Celtics on that opening night in 1969. Then, of course, he went on to coach. The franchise relocated to Kansas City and Omaha. I bet he's got some good stories on that, fun trips they made. But the point is that my relationship as an adult was rekindled when Bob Cousy became a broadcaster with the Boston Celtics, and I spent many a pregame in that press room, and as we all did, learning and at the feet of the master. And I never dreamed at the time I was in BC that I would wind up doing a book with Bob Cousy. Did a book with Bob Cousy, and I cannot tell you how wonderful and much fun that was. And first of all, the literacy of the man, when you do a book with an athlete, you do interviews and then you transcribe, but he would hand me written chapters that barely needed editing. Absolutely, they were wonderful. But did a book with Bob Cousy, and he was so generous with his split of the proceeds, and so my wife and I continually refer to what we call the Bob Cousy bathroom that we were able to construct as a result of that experience. I am so honored to be here in the midst with all these people, all these wonderful, on all these basketball luminaries and political luminaries and civic leaders and everything else. It is just an honor for this kid from Trenton, New Jersey, to think that I came from worshiping at the shrine from afar to getting to know and be acquainted with Bob Cousy. It's been one of the great honors of my life, simply to be able to say, hey, I know Bob Cousy. So I thank you very much for having me here, and I thank you, Couz, for letting me into your life. Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby.
Okay, make sure you have plenty of leg room. The Houdini of the hardwood, Bob Cousy. I'll put him down in front of you.
Okay. Thank you. I may regret this, so if I fall on my nose, you'll know what it's all about, but in any event. So, if I'd known I was going to be eulogized, I would have done the only decent thing and died for you, really. I've got to stop using that line, Father. I think at 92, the good Lord is sick of hearing it, and he's going to say to his aide, hey, get that sucker up. I hope he says up with us and not down, but anyway. Yeah, I've got to find something else. Oh, dear. I not only don't hear well, but I can't see well. Anyway, I apologize for doing the wheelchair trick. I can't beat anyone in a foot race anymore, but I can still manage to get from like point A to point B of a cane. It's standing in one place for more than a minute, and we're going to find out about that or two, that tends to get my attention. So here's what I'd like to do. I've been told by my point man that you've heard John Harity for over a year, quote, Couz, this is your day, you're the man, whatever you want, you get, end quote. I wish life were that easy, but anyway, I have some formal remarks that I'll bore you with in a few minutes, but before I have, some people, some you have heard from, some not, who I would simply like to acknowledge beforehand. This is such a personal event for my family and I that I'd like to acknowledge everyone that's here. Trust me, Sandy Dunn would have a nervous breakdown and we'd be here past dinner, but if I could introduce every single one of you folks that are here, that would be my preference. However, since we can't do that, and you've all played a positive role in my life or my family's life, I got ahead of myself. I've been told on many occasions it's never a good idea to introduce just a few selected people. People get their feelings hurt if they're not introduced or if not in the proper order. So I've taken the time, or I took the time during the week to do it on index cards, and I shuffled them like a deck of cards. So you'll have to believe me, this is completely random, except for the first one.
I cheated. I gave myself first pick. Kevin and Claire Condon. Kevin is an old and dear friend who had a serious fall a year and a half ago. He has been in sustained rehab since, is making perhaps his first public appearance with us today. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I couldn't be more pleased. And I know a lot of Kevin's friends that are here, some Ralph Crowley, Father Burrows, Father Markey, are as happy as I am. So Kev, where did they plant you? Wave to the, thank you for making this effort, really. Claire, thank you for your help on this. Number 2, Amri and Rami. I'm trying to make a Frenchman out of you, Amri. Sculptor extraordinaire. They told me you were a genius at your trade, and you're more than proved that with what you have produced, given what you had to work with. So. And I understand, although this is in the rumor stage, you told me it wasn't a done deal. I understand we're launching you on to bigger and better things. No? Okay. All right. None of you will ever know what Amri has been commissioned to do from here, unless you torture him, I guess, and you'll get it out of him. Anyway. Congratulations, Amri. And if the Celtics ever start putting up old Celtics on Causeway Street, you'll be the one I recommend. Well done. So the third one, it's been alluded to, I think the governor or whoever. Anyway, I've been involved with in one way or another with a wonderful mentoring agency called Big Brothers for 71 years, literally. Yeah, it really is outstanding. My first year out of the course, a Holy Cross graduate, Ed Kennedy, came to me and said they were opening a chapter in Worcester and he was going to be the executive director and would I get involved in promoting and fundraising. Anyway, I was impressed with the program, and we went from there. They got woke in recent years and added Big Sisters, thank goodness. At one point, during a 20-year period in the 60s and 70s, I became an active Big Brother and mentored 3 young men during that period. I was honored in 1965 to be invited to the White House to receive the Big Brother of the Year award presented by President Johnson. He had been the recipient in '64. I had my daughters with me and my little brother. His name was Ray Clark. I returned in 1966. That was the custom when the award was given that year to the Reverend Billy Graham. So I was in pretty good company. I figured we were not able to locate Ray Clark for this event, but fortunately, my second little brother, Marvin Graham, and Marvin, I hope you're here. He's no longer a little brother. He's a distinguished retired gentleman now, and I'm very proud of him. And he was the brains and the brawn behind John Harrity that you've seen up here, his business for 28 years. Harrity Appliance, right, Jack? Marvin, are you with us? Marvin, come on, stand up momentarily. All right, pal. Wonderful. And my third little brother, we found Kevin Murphy. We found in Toledo, Ohio, after having a distinguished career in the Marine Corps. Kevin, are you with us, I hope? Kevin, thank you for making that trip. I'm really so proud of both of you guys. Thank you. God, I can't turn this. I don't know about this gentleman either. I haven't seen him, but he was an old family friend who had a long, distinguished career in Congress representing the city of Somerville, Michael Capuano. Michael, are you with us? Michael, so pleased to see you. Michael showed up at a Holy Cross event about 12 years ago, and I spotted him. He was a very visible congressman at the time, so I wasn't thinking of Worcester, Mass. to find Michael. And I called him up and we chatted, and I said, Michael, what the heck are you doing here? You're supposed to be in Washington saving the world. And he said, Coos, my dad would have come out of his grave and come after me if I weren't here. Well, Michael, I'm sure both Rita, your dear mom, and Andrew, your dad, are looking down and giving you a big thumbs up for today. And I've already asked you to stand up, but I really appreciate you being here, Michael. Thank you. So why are we here today, and who is responsible? You've already heard from him, but a little bird told me that it was our mayor, Joe Petty, our city manager, Ed Augustus, and our city council who ultimately voted yes are the culprits. They have my families and my undying gratitude. ASM Global, that has been mentioned, are picking up the tab and signing the checks, not unimportant. Not the taxpayer, Ed, right? Thank God. And they have the most efficient, professional person in the world implementing the entire process, my new friend, Miss Sandy Dunn. And she's kind and compassionate as well, so she's professional, effective, and kind. And lastly, my new best friend who has been holding my hand, you've heard from him, saying yes almost always, teaching me to Zoom, as he mentioned, cooking me the best swordfish on the planet, and providing an almost immaculate, immediate answer or resolution to every problem I've given him to solve during this period. Thank you, John Harity, and your bride, Kathy, deserves an assist as well, at least. Yet another old friend I'd like to acknowledge is former Senator Scott Brown. Senator, New Zealand's loss is our gain. Welcome home. Now we've got to get you back in Washington. Your kind of independent thinking is what our country, I think, desperately needs at this time. Thank you for taking the time for being with us. And my friend Maura Healey, you are an absolute superstar, Maura. I am so proud of the job you're doing as our Attorney General. Every other day, your name or photo is in the Globe or Telegram, going after the bad guys, wherever they are on the social ladder. I told you inside, you've got to leave some for your successor. You're going to put them all away, there won't be anyone left. Although I don't think we have to worry about that. Unfortunately, there's plenty to go around, right? Maura, thank you for interrupting your very busy schedule to be with us today. And Governor Baker, Governor, thank you obviously for taking the time, but that same little bird I referenced a while back told me that you came into your office this morning and that your desk calendar was completely clear, no appointments all day. And you said to your secretary, Matilda, I'm bored to death. Can't you find something for me to do today? How will it look if I just sit on my butt in my office all day? And she said, Governor, I think they're planting that old fart down in Worcester this afternoon. You know, Bob Cousy, I think his name was. Do you want me to try and get you on the program? Well, if you folks believe all that, there's a bridge in Brooklyn we can discuss. And besides, what governor would have a secretary named Matilda, right? Governor, you honor the city of Worcester with your presence. You honor my family, and you honor me. Thank you. Bobby, I don't know. I haven't. Do we have a Boston College family here? Do you know? Yes. I thought we had a well-represented Boston family, and if we do, could you guys and gals stand? Well, there you go. My bride and I were together for 63 years. 6 of those, the 60s, we often said the most fulfilling and satisfying of our time together because of the interaction of you who are with us today. So I don't want to repeat myself, but thank you all for sharing this moment along with Robert. I really tie you in with that era, and as I said a moment ago, it was very, very fulfilling because of the people we worked with. Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito. Karen, first off, your parents, I told you, are sweethearts, and you have a knack for sharing the very special moments in my life lately. I seem to remember that you and my favorite sheriff in the world, Lou Evangelitis, showed up at the Worcester Airport 2 years ago to wish us all bon voyage to the 16 of us who were off to Washington to receive a medal that I'm very proud of. So my family and I really appreciate that gesture, as we do the one today, Karen. Thank you for being with us. And the aforementioned Bob Ryan, Robert, I'm proud to have you here as part of the BC family. You have completely captured the art of sports communication at every level. You've been the #1 sports columnist in the country for the Globe, specializing in basketball. Second, you remain a highly respected sports analyst on television for years. And third, as you mentioned, a distinguished author of many successful sports books. And it all started back at Boston College with many of the people that are with us today. Thank you for being part of this event, Robert. And Wick Grosbeck and Steve Pagliuca, guys, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I know you can't be happy campers about the way the season went, but if you're looking for reasons, and you guys referenced that earlier, but if you're looking for reasons to feel good about yourselves and the Celtics, start with the fact that the Boston Celtics have done more, in my opinion, to further the cause of social justice and fight racism than any American professional sports team in any sport. Starting in 1950 with the owner at the time, Walter Brown, standing up at the draft saying, quote, "The Celtics draft Chuck Cooper from Duquesne," end quote, to you guys forming the initiative you talked about, the Boston Celtics for Social Justice Foundation, and then literally putting your money where your mouth was and putting up $25 million to fund that initiative. I'm proud to have you gentlemen with us on this occasion, and I'm even prouder to have been asked to be a board member of your new foundation. Peace. My friend Satch, I will simply say, Satch, that you are a man for all seasons. You are a good man of integrity. Regardless of the generation, what planet we're on, what color our skin happen to be above, the above would be the reality. And I am proud to have been your teammate and your friend over the years. Peace to you and Jenny, Satch. Father Phil Burrows, congratulations on your tenure as Holy Cross president. You leave it in a much better place in every way. Enjoy your retirement in Washington State with my blessings along with Kevin's and the Holy Cross community. Thank you. And my talented MC, Michael Gorman. Michael, there is no one better qualified to MC this event. You are the ultimate professional at whatever you do, and you and I go back so far as friends and co-workers for the team we both love so much. And I'm so pleased and proud to share membership with you in that exclusive club, the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, that you are to be inducted into later this year. Well done, Michael. So well deserved. Peace to you and Terry. So, if you weren't sure I tinkered with the process before, now it's been verified. I've left my friend Senator Joe until last, because Joe is not about ego. He could care less where he is on the list. But he's about integrity, voting his conscience while also being loyal to his party. I don't remember statistics, but I think I saw where he has voted the Democratic agenda over 90% of the time. And completely, in my judgment, avoids self-interest in his decisions. He is a true patriot. And God, does the country need this quality in our leaders at this point in our history. Joseph, I told you 2 years ago, coming out of the White House, I owe you a big one. Now I owe you two, my friend. And Gail Manchin, where's Gail? Gail, thank you also for coming, and you know, for joining us today. I'm sure there might have been a few more fun things you could have done than flying to Worcester, Mass. This afternoon, especially now that you're a celebrity in your own right. You're receiving these prestigious awards. My daughter Zoomed, the President of the United States appointed you and a co-chair, I guess, to a very prestigious. So, is this to keep Joe humble, or I anyway? Thank you for being with us, Gail, and Andy and Joni. Thank you, Andrew and Joni, for simplifying. Okay, there's more to come, by the way, but that's the end of the personal introductions. Let me blow my nose, huh? Jesus, I'm so bad at these events. I'm sorry. I'm an emotional Frenchman, I guess. I don't know. Shaky, but anyway, good. Thanks, John. Yeah.
Heck of a blow.
Well, it looks like I'll be guarding the DCU Center for many years to come. Although I hope you know that I was not really known for my defense. Anyway, this is a proud moment for me. With this statue, the city honors me, but today I'm here to honor Worcester. I've had two great love affairs in my life, one with my dear bride, Missy. We were married 63 years. The second has been and still is with Worcester, and it dates back 74 years to when Harry Truman was president. Worcester is my place, it's my town, my everything, my security blanket, my home base. Worcester has been my home and refuge. I love this city. Whatever I have given to it, it has given me much more. Truth is, I didn't choose Worcester, it chose me. On a rainy Saturday in September 1946, I stepped off a train from New York at Worcester Union Station. I had just turned 18. It was my second trip out of the big city, the Big Apple. In Worcester, almost at once, I felt the warm intimacy of a small New England city. It was so different than a New York City ghetto that I'd known. And that's where my love affair began. I enjoyed a wonderful experience at Holy Cross. Growing up in New York, in a ghetto environment, my only moral code was that of the streets, survival and self-interest. This was the 30s. That code changed during my 4 years at Holy Cross to, quote, maximize your God-given skills and then reach out in the communities and help everyone who needs an assist in life, end quote. In my own small way, I've at least tried to live up to that wise counsel. In my voice, you might still hear the sound of New York, and many people think of me as being from Boston due to my 13 seasons with the Celtics. I was the team captain, and we won 6 NBA championships during that period. But I'm a Worcester guy. That's the truth. My body was in Boston, but my heart was here in Worcester. Missy and I were married at St. Peter's. We lived in a small apartment on Young Street, then a house on Chamberlain Parkway, and since 1963 at 427 Salisbury, where I still rattle around by myself until I fall on my nose and break something. That's what old folks do very well or often. Both of my talented and wonderful daughters, Marie and Tisha, had their primary education at Blessed Sacrament and then Marian and Notre Dame Academy. Holy Cross didn't have students with skirts then, Father, so my daughters finished at Boston College and Boston Universities. The Cousies have lived and died here in Worcester. My parents, my bride, and Missy's mother are all buried at St. John's, where I'm afraid I'll be joining them shortly, but okay. And I shouldn't forget that most of our beloved poodles, we were dog lovers who we spoiled for 63 years, are buried at 427, although if it had been up to my bride, they would have all been at St. John's with the family. Everyone and everything that is dear to me is here in Worcester, and again, that's why this honor is so special. I'm essentially, someone said, a private person. I've had to live most of my life in a public bubble simply because I was blessed with some God-given skills to play a child's game quite well. I've never been comfortable with my so-called celebrity. In that way, I'm kind of like the actor Orson Welles. He once said he hated being a celebrity, except, Wells said, when I go to my favorite restaurant on Saturday night and they are queued up and the maitre d' sees me, Mr. Wells, we have your table ready. Then, and I so related to that. I hate the celebrity until it fits my convenience, I guess. I don't know. Worcester is and always has been my anecdote for the rigors of celebrity because the kindness of so many people here, my family and I were allowed to live normal American lives. Worcesterites gave us friendship, love, and respect. Just wonderful. I've tried to reciprocate that, I've tried to reciprocate that kindness in part by living a life that I can only hope has made this city proud. I've tried to help Worcester in other ways over the years. In 1996, I helped to bring the world premiere of the Paramount movie Blue Chips to Worcester as a fundraiser for local charities. Claude Dufo, a dear friend, and I knocked on corporate doors for as long as it took. And in the end, $400,000 was distributed to local nonprofits. The premiere brought to our city Hollywood celebrities, including Academy Award-winning director William Friedkin. And then 2 years later, in 1998, an old friend and Worcesterite, Danny Doyle, brought a fundraising concept to me, an international 6'2" and under basketball tournament. You had to be under 6'2", so it's kind of unique. And we brought players from 21 countries, including Azerbaijan and Israel, and as I say, 21 for a week of basketball played in 3 divisions. Local colleges provided housing and gym facilities. Fire and police volunteered their services. Thanks to Sandy Dunn, we held opening ceremonies at the DC Youth Center. Bing's widow, Kathy Crosby, welcomed the 21 countries for us on stage. We had a sports panel chaired by my dear friend, Father Johnny Brooks, then president of Holy Cross. Hall of Fame coaches like Red Auerbach, Dean Smith, Tommy Heinsohn all participated, as did the political activist Jesse Jackson. The event was an artistic success that brought the community together in a wonderful way. Unfortunately, it was a fiscal, we broke even. We were not able to distribute funds, but the people enjoyed it. So I'm biased about Worcester. I think Worcester, as much as any city in this nation, exemplifies the entire package. It's a diverse ethnic melange. There are 11 colleges in our city, maybe 10 now, of about 180,000, more colleges per capita than in any other city. There are high-tech opportunities across the industries, and our nonprofits and politicians have demonstrated a compassion that has touched every part of our community. So as I think about Worcester's future, what it might be like long after I'm gone, here's what I would hope for, that this city becomes like the Celtics of my time. Way back in the 50s and 60s, our Celtics brought together players of different races, different personalities, and they came from different parts of the country. We became a real team, united on the court, and we won a whole lot of championships. 11 in 13 years. That's a record that will never be broken. That's what I would like for Worcester in the future. I hope this city continues to play as one team. I hope it brings together Worcesterites across lines of race and class to become a championship city, winning titles through its hard work and humanity. It's already won 5 All-American City nominations. They've won it 5 times. I earlier mentioned politicians. I started interacting with Worcester politics way back with Mayor Jim O'Brien and then City Manager Franny McGrath. Through the decades, our city has been directed with fiscal effectiveness and New England frugality. I've seldom seen such cooperation amongst departments and concern for people as that produced by this city manager council system. For today's event, I owe a big one, and as already mentioned, but it bears repeating, to Joe Petty and Ed Augustus, who brought this together and presented it to the council, who would I always also like to thank again. My friend John Harity added a big assist, and since I'm name dropping, I have to add that over the last few years, I have called upon both Tim Murray and Senator Jim McGovern for assists and help, and they've always come through for me. So again, to our international known sculptor, Amri Adrani. Am I screwing that up too badly, Amri? I'm trying, I told you, to make a Frenchman out of you, but anyway. Again, you've lived up to your billing. Well done. My family and I thank you, Worcester, for the last 74 years. And I thank you for allowing me, through this wonderful statue, to be a part of this city's legacy forever. Peace. Love you.
Love you, Cousy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Amri.
You did a good job.
You made a center out of me. I started a god, I'm now a center.